Hey traders, Nick Shaheen here looking at IBM. Reported earnings and it was a stinker. Needless to say, the stock is down 7%, 7.5%. What now? First of all, about the earnings. Actually, let me back up. First of all, I've hated this company for a while now as far as what they're doing. I'm a fan of its products as far as I grew up using PCs, not Apple, so from that perspective, I like that. But as far as company, for a long time they've been lost, and I cannot believe Watson has not been screaming every morning, you got to get rid of the CEO, you got to get rid of the CEO, you absolutely have to get rid of the CEO. Somebody who's tried, they've been basically blowing smoke. I saw one interview with Apple and Remedy one day. Tim Cook and Remedy were sitting down and talking, and I was like, what are they talking about? If you just blacked out the headlines as far as what the tickers are, it could have applied to any generic company on any generic subject, and that was the plan going forward. And I was like, this is just a bunch of vaporware. Okay, so back to the point. What do I do now? From a price action perspective, it's been stuck between a rock and a hard place. Those two boxes. What are those? These are just points that stuck out to me in the charts, and obviously I picked the right levels because here we are ping-ponging between the two levels. I didn't draw them now. These have been drawn for a while. So back to the lower end of it. Is this a knife I would catch? Absolutely not. First of all, fundamentally, they have no clue what they're trying to veer the ship, but they're just taking too long. What do I call it? The strategic imperatives, which basically the new tech, the cloud-based things, the Internet of Things-based things that everybody's. So think CRM, think Adobe, think Microsoft. Everybody made the switch except these guys. They're still hanging their hat on a robot that can play chess. Basically, I'm oversimplifying things, but they're just taking too long to do whatever the heck they're going to do. Even Buffett gave up on them, and that guy invests for the long term. Having said that, technically, it's awful at this point. First of all, this is a big candle, not likely to be a one-day event, and so far the volume is, the day is not over, but the volume is not as happy as it could be. Market is open, so I may have to pause it to go manage open trades. The action doesn't tell me, okay, buy it or sell puts in it. And here's why. Okay, so technically, I am not a technician, meaning I'm not a technical analyst. I do have friends that are awesome technical analysts, but I do use technical analysis very well for my, that serves me very well. I am an engineer by schooling and mentality, so I do understand technicals in a simple way. So here's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing many knocks on a neckline. Now, this is not a perfect head and shoulders. Somebody could probably draw a perfect head and shoulder somewhere. But to me, that looks like a ghost, right? Several shoulders over here and a high poke, meaning the bulls tried to rally and they failed. They bounced off of support. They said, we can do it again. They tried and they failed. And they said, we can do it again. They tried and they did very well. And then they failed. And then they said, okay, we can do it again. They tried a couple of times. They didn't even come close to meeting this peak. And they keep coming back to testing the same neckline. So what happens if that neckline breaks? And that's the question that keeps me out of the shares for now as far as catching a falling knife. And if I'm long them, I'm protecting how? By just buying puts or at least selling covered calls or something. So what happens next? So what if this floorboard breaks? Well, it's going to fall, and technically the fall is usually by the height of the middle effort. But to me, I usually... So what does that mean? It means I need to expand. Okay, so when I expand, I look left, and I try to get a gauge of where they would stop next. Okay, so... let's see here. We have a cluster of price action right down here. So that would be of interest. So 142 would be a natural stop. Why? Because you would need another reason to bust through it. So let's flip to a weekly chart to see if that gives us any more. So this is the cluster we were talking about, that 142 zone. Indeed, it has served as stops several times, even though they poured through it right here in 2016. So this is an overshoot. Stop number one is this cluster right here, for several reasons. Stop number 2 would be this cluster right there. So I'm not saying it's going there. I'm saying that these are areas of interest. This, I bet, is that that interview with Remedi. This right there. That call out I put up there. Because that was the day I said, short this thing. It's going lower. And I posted it. I'm on record of saying that. I'm not calling for 135. I'm saying if I'm long, I'm nervous. I'm saying I don't catch this falling knife. I'm saying all these things for technical reasons, but behind bad fundamentals. Okay, Nick signing out. This was my effort at explaining IBM and what I do from it here. I don't sell puts in a stock like that. A, fundamentally, I don't believe in it. B, technically, it looks pretty iffy. So if you need to reach me for anything, sellspreads@gmail.com. sellspreads@gmail.com.